Land Before Time was one of my most favorite movies growing up. I used to watch it pretty much every day when I got home from school. And I know that seems kind of insane, but I only had like 3 movies on VHS. And I was so excited when I heard there was a Land Before Time video game because I thought, well, it's gotta be kind of interesting, right? I mean, Don Bluth, the creator of Land Before Time, made Space Ace and Dragon's Lair, and those are great games. But this one, he didn't make. And it sucks for not having him involved. This is Land Before Time, the Great Valley Racing Adventure. Let's find the positives. Let's talk about something first before we dive into how bad this game is. See, Land Before Time Great Racing Adventure had a little advertisement on the back, and this advertisement told me about another Land Before Time game called Land Before Time Return to the Great Valley. Now, I didn't know what that game was, but as best as I can tell, the company TDK got the rights to make the Land Before Time game, one of them anyway, and decided to take the assets from one game and bleed them over to the other. Now, I haven't played Return to the Great Valley, and you know what? I guarantee you that game is probably a hell of a lot better than this one, because this is just a straight up racing game with very little heart, very little soul. When you see the gameplay of this game, you'll think to yourself, hey, this looks a lot like Crash Bandicoot. And you're right, it does. Now, while Crash Bandicoot actually had a racing game called Crash Bandicoot Team Racing, this one here takes the asset kind of design of Crash Bandicoot and the look, but turns that into a racing game, which is wrong. A lot of the game just doesn't feel completed, it doesn't feel wholly thought out, and it just feels simple, like they didn't really put a lot of time or effort into its design. Really, I don't want to say that the game is the worst thing I've ever played, because it's not. It just feels like a poor man's excuse for a racing game released on a very competent system that a lot of people are releasing really good racing games on. Now, one thing I really hated about this game, more than anything else, was the cutscenes. Now, this cutscene right here was done kind of okay, I thought, but I thought that the graphics assets were really bad. Like, the animation and the voice work was just terrible. Voice work aside, that animation's something you could solve when you were making really decent models in-game that were used in the racing sequences. But what they tried to do here was get away with cheap, lazy animation, because this company, Visionscape Interactive, was capable of doing this for the intro with their own logo. Now that was creepy, but it looked okay. There was a lot of time and effort that went into that. So why did they not take all that time and effort and put it into the cutscenes of the game, which there are only 3 of? 3 cutscenes, and they were too lazy to make those models look good. That's a damn shame. The Land Before Time is a very popular film franchise, or at least it was. See, I only ever knew the first film, but apparently there was a bunch of them. Alex, how many movies did they make?
14, duh!
14 movies! I didn't even know where you go after the first film. It kind of just ended and that was it. One thing that they did from this game was they utilized all 5 of the main characters from the original film. So you got Littlefoot, you've got Ducky, you've got Sarah, you've got Spike, and you also have Petrie. Now, Petrie is a flying character, so he can't really exist in this racing game because it really wouldn't make a lot of sense. And that's unfortunate, but he does show up in the cutscenes, which means that the people that were making this game were well aware of his existence. So, you can use those 4 characters to run around and 1 to see in cutscenes. That's cool. So the first positive is that this game features all the main characters from the film. Usually when I play knockoff or bad racing games, one of the things they do is they don't feature a lot of levels. Most of the games I usually play that are bad offer 1, 2, maybe 3 levels, and that's about it. Now with this game, you really can't have a big customization or a lot of changes with the characters because they're what they are, but the levels are one thing that this game didn't shy away from. There are tons and tons of levels you can go through, and I really like that. A large variety of levels means that you get to play this game for a lot more. Now, arguably, you have to play this game for a lot longer than you probably should to beat it, but at least there's a lot of levels there that add a little bit of variety and value to the gameplay experience itself. So, the second positive is that this game has a lot of levels. The first thing you're probably thinking about this game is,
Well, it was made for kids, so it's gotta be easy to play.
but you'd be wrong. This game is actually pretty damn difficult. See, at its easiest setting, all you're doing is collecting tree stars. You don't collect enough tree stars, you don't progress to the next level. And believe me, it's a little bit harder than it looks, even at its easiest setting. At the medium setting, you've got a time limit where you can't really bump into a lot of things and you have to get to the end of the stage as quick as you can, which is actually a lot more difficult than collecting the tree stars. But the coup de grace, the one that's really hard, is the hard mode, because what you have to do in that mode is collect tree stars and complete the level as fast as you can, and that is maddening. These difficulty settings are not made for kids and are actually quite challenging for adult players. So that's something I wasn't expecting while getting into this. And believe me, the difficulty on this isn't because of some bad controls or bad games and stuff like that, which, the bad gameplay probably doesn't help too much. What really makes this difficulty work is the fact that it is a challenge. So, the third positive is that this game has challenging gameplay. Now, at the beginning of this episode, I discussed how there really wasn't an acceleration button. Your character just keeps on moving forward regardless. And I said that wasn't a very good thing. But I'll tell you what, in this one exclusive positive you're ever gonna see from me, one of the faults from the past made for a really challenging and interesting gameplay idea in the multiplayer. Losing the ability to control acceleration and braking means that both players are essentially equal. As soon as the race starts, you both go at the exact same time, at the exact same speed. And that's pretty amazing, because the only real difference you'll find are some power-ups and stuff on the playfield. There are plenty of obstacles to avoid running into, but that is a part of the gameplay itself. It's focusing more on the traversal of the level rather than the actual racing. Now, with all that being said, I can almost guarantee you that the developers did this by complete accident. I believe that there's no way that they honestly thought they were making a really good racing obstacle course game. I think it just happened by mistake. It would have been far more difficult to make an acceleration and braking mechanic in the game. And because they didn't, that awkward laziness made this really strong and really good multiplayer mode. Heck, I know it's good and strong because Alex and I played it for hours.
Yeah, Ducky. Get those tree stars, Ducky! 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 Yeah! Woo!
What a f***. The fourth positive is that this game has some really strong and good multiplayer. So, do I recommend that you play Great Valley Racing Adventure? Well, yeah, actually. Maybe you should. Not for the single player, but for the multiplayer. I don't think I've ever played a game quite like this where the gameplay was just so wrong by accident that it made a really fun experience. I don't think there's many racing games out there that I've ever played that offer this easy kinda competitive level of similar gameplay styles, where you're just set so much close to each other that the racing is always neck and neck. It's worth playing, so if you ever find this out in the wild, you gotta give it a shot. Because it's actually pretty good.